North Metro Atlanta. If you know, you know.
Cool. Oh my goodness, man. Driz, we're back again.
Yes, sir. Bringing it back.
Edition of the Real Talk Show, brought to you by the Emerging 100 of North Metro Atlanta. I'm one of your co-hosts, Benjamin Thompson. I go by Benji, and this is
your boy Dressel Yilla. I also go by Driz.
Yeah, man. I'm very excited for this episode. This is our second in-person one, right?
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you kind of get tired of being on the screen, right? You want to just get that in-person feel. So honestly, shout out to you, bro. You brought this guest on.
Oh yeah, and then also on top of that, it's like perfect timing, right?
It is.
It's mental health month.
Yeah.
This man has been on a mental health journey. I've been tracking it. Actually, what even brought my attention to it, because I usually just be on stories, clicking through, listening real quick, seeing.
Yeah.
But he had a picture of his face edited with a six-pack. At first, I stopped. I was like, yo, hold on, what's going on? He built like that underneath. He looked like Aaron Donald. So it's like I tapped in, been seeing he's been working, like playing basketball. I don't even know when you sleep now. I'm a person that only get 5 to 6 hours of sleep, but him, basketball every day, gym every morning, working on his book, using AI to develop his book, asking people for their opinions as he's developing his book, and being very self-conscious of what is going on around him, not just what he has going on, but even like to the point where whilst he's working on these things, he's even keeping track of what's going on with his family. So he's working on his book. I think it was your son. I think one day you was talking about him using his book, his laptop, always keeping him engaged in something. So it's just like a good guidance on like what a black man should be when you're trying to grow into that head role of the family.
Facts.
So
without further ado, man, let's go and bring on our guest. None other than, you know, the hip-hop financial educator himself.
Hey.
The law.
Yes.
Mr. Ashcast.
I appreciate you. Thank you. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to be here. I don't know, not in a million years did I think I was gonna be like the OG guy. Like, you know what I'm trying to say? I just right, I just started this thing, you know, I got little grays coming, you know what I'm trying to say? I started this thing just wanting to, you know, inspire the community, and now, you know, it's a blessing to see the impact that God has allowed me to have in the world, you know, and so it's a pleasure to be here with you guys. So thank you for having me.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Let's get that icebreaker in.
Oh yeah, so all right, question for you. Oh no, we in Atlanta.
Yeah.
We in the heart of Atlanta. We at the gathering spot. Shout out to the gathering spot for letting us host this here.
Sure.
You a ranch guy or blue cheese? I know you from like up north.
Yeah.
I don't know how these northerners move.
Yeah,
Down south, we all about the ranch.
Blue cheese, 1,000%. 1,000%.
Okay, so I have a more important question.
Yeah.
All right. Drums or flats?
So y'all know I'm on my raw vegan journey.
Okay, right. Yeah.
But
theoretically,
when I dibbled and dabbled, gotta be the flats, man.
My man.
You gotta think about the drum. You know what I mean? The drum is you know,
yeah, man.
It's just something about the flat, quick and easy, quick and out. You know what I'm saying? The drum is too much work, man.
I feel it. But you just mentioned something very important. You're on your vegan journey.
Yeah.
You said you down 30 pounds last month.
Clap it up, man. Clap it up.
Hey, that's hard work. I lost 30 pounds at one point. I was 350 at one point. Now I'm down to 300. I definitely understand it's a different mental battle, overcoming those habits. But you as an entrepreneur, what have you seen with the correlation of you working out, being healthy, along with your entrepreneurship type journey?
Yeah, it's a clear mind is one of the best things that you could ever do for any journey, whether it's entrepreneur, whether it's relationship. You know, literally, I started this raw vegan journey on accident, right? Playing ball. You know, shout out to my guy Neo. Neo was like, bro, like, I know what you could do. I'm a walking 20, if anybody knows. You know what I'm saying? So like, I know what you could do, but this weight is like, you know, like you got to get rid of this weight. And so he showed me a picture of Pinky Cole from Slutty Vegan, who lost 55 pounds in 4 months by just going raw. And so I was like, oh, that's dope. And so he bet me 10K. It was like, yo, I bet you 10K you can't go raw for a month.
Playing, man.
Hold up, he trying to extend that bet?
He said, yo, hey. So look, that's all I need. I said, say less, let's go. And so I started the journey, and at first it was all about just like I don't like to lose, hardly lose and stuff. So I was like, I'm winning this easy. But after the first week, I started to realize like I was sleeping better, my mood was better, I had more energy, right? And you got to think about it when you eat food that's alive. It gives you energy more than it drains energy, right? And so, you know, us in the black community, we know what the itis is, right? You eat food and you're like, oh, I need a nap, right? The opposite is what happens when you eat raw vegan. You know, you don't want to take a nap. You actually have more energy and you can keep going. And so to your point earlier about like being able to so I'm doing two a day, sometimes 3 a days. Still running, you know, several successful businesses, still a family man. But you know, going raw vegan has given me that energy. But the clarity is just so different, right? The clarity, I'm making better decisions. I'm, you know, not getting into things that don't feel right. And that's the other piece of it that I think people don't talk about, is that, you know, more than the technical stuff, business is a feeling. Right, and I think a lot of times people try to, you know, bring logic to what they feel. So you walk into a room, this don't feel right, but what they're saying sounds right, or you know, on paper this might be a great deal, but for some reason it don't feel right, and a lot of times we go against that feeling. But you know, being able to be tapped into that third eye, if you will, that intuition. Allows you to make, you know, especially if you're feeding the body the right things, you make better decisions, faster, clearer decisions, and so it's been a blessing. It's been a blessing.
So would you say that this has kind of like been the biggest investment you made this year, and like you've gotten the biggest return on your investment?
1,000, yeah, because you got to think, right? So for me, you know, as somebody who has had a lot of success in my life. From corporate America to entrepreneurship to, I mean, you name it, I've had a lot of success, but I'm also a father, I'm also a husband, you know, I'm also a uncle, right? I'm also
So he is
brother.
He is uncle.
Hey, I mean, you should be used to it. Oh, Cash, that's what we're gonna call you.
All of these different titles, I feel like I have an obligation, you know, to present my best self. Right? No competition against anybody else, but is Ash the best Ash that he can be? And am I fulfilling those roles properly? And so yes, more than any, you know, monetary investment I've ever made, this has been the best investment because I feel the greatest I've ever felt in my life. A lot of my relationships are getting, like my relationship with my wife is increasing, is going stronger. You know, she started the raw journey with me as well, but she started, you know, dibbling and dabbling, but she's still, you know, she's on her health kick. So, you know, we've been able to draw closer together. You know,
like one thing we want to do is push young entrepreneurs to understand that this shift and this journey is easy.
It's a personal development journey above
1,000.
all else.
Yeah.
I mean, that was something we were discussing on camera. You said it wasn't that easy. It's been a journey even to this day.
Yeah, still a journey.
Waking up. But what can you tell to the young entrepreneurs about making that transition, altering yourself, and like making these kind of commitments that make you feel uncomfortable in the moment, but can pay off 10, 20, 30 years down the line, especially you writing books, impacting lives and doing everything you do.
Yeah, I think success is a journey. Success is a commitment. You're not going to get it without it. This isn't new for me, right? I had to make sacrifices along the way. So I was, you know, I'm a financial educator, one of the top financial educators in the world.
Clap it up for that one. Gotta clap it up.
That's not common.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I run. You know, I have a top 200 podcast called Inside the Vault with Ash Cash. It's been seen in over 156 countries. I chart in 26 of them, so I'm top 226 countries around the world.
Amazing.
Been seen millions of times on the podcast. Author of over 17 books. In God's will. Yeah, by the end of the year.
We're gonna get into those.
I'll do that. But again, the journey for me has always been about, and I don't necessarily like the word sacrifice, because sacrifice to me feels like I'm giving something up. And I have a slogan: abundance is your birthright. So I believe and is better than or. I don't have to choose. And so I don't believe in sacrifice. I believe in making a choice, and being able to follow through with whatever that choice is. And so I started my career as a banker at 19 years old. I was a teller. Did everything in banking, from teller to personal banker, private banker, branch manager. I was one of the youngest CEOs of a federally chartered bank at 31 years old. And so even at that point, where a lot of my friends were going to the club and doing all these things, I wasn't doing that. And so it may seem like, man, you sacrifice going out and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, it's really for the betterment of who I am. And when I look now at the amount of success I've had, if I did not make that choice when I was 19 to stay focused, on whatever whatever my dream was at the time, I wouldn't be here. So for any young person, I would just tell them, it's not really about sacrifice, because I think partying is sacrificing, right? I think, if you party, you're sacrificing your dream. If you are, going around, dating multiple women, you're sacrificing the time that you could be working on yourself. So I look at not being disciplined, right? Because it's all about discipline. I look at not being disciplined as a sacrifice. And so I would tell anybody who is on their journey, just figure out, what you desire, and then just create the discipline to go after that thing every single day. Because the truth of the matter is that, the Honorable Sean Carter, Jay-Z once said, right, sometimes you're up, sometimes you're down. As long as you stay the same, it'll come back around. And that's a lesson in life. A lot of people think that, if you're successful, like it's all up. Nah, there's a lot of roller coaster that go through it. And that's why discipline is important, because while you're going through the ups and downs, as long as you stay disciplined and you do the thing that you promised to do, whether you feel like it or not, that's how you get the result.
That's a bar.
Yeah. Did you have a question to ask him?
I definitely wanted to. You talked about how it started, and how his journey to that, right, and giving us the journey. I want to see how that answer, right, how did that blow up into your platform? And then do you preach that message in Abundance is Your Birthright and Ask, the whole Ask Cash platform?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think for me, I've made a promise to authenticity, and so I show everything. I don't hide anything. I wanted, so part of why I do what I do is because when I was coming up, there really wasn't anybody that I could look up to, or I could follow their footsteps, because the people who, it was gatekeepers, and the people I looked up to, it was hard to get to them. And so for me, I made a promise. I said, man, like, if I ever am able to get into a position of influence, if you will, then I'm gonna be transparent. I'm gonna show them the real. I'm gonna do, I'm gonna be, do, and have,
Love that.
What
I know he got that
right.
From.
So
I
I gotta be, do, and have.
That's the golden rule. Yeah.
And so at the end of the day, I made that promise, and that's, so living in abundance, I want to not only preach it, but I want to show it too. I want to be the example, right? Because a lot of times people say one thing, and then their actions say something different, or you see some, like somebody will say black excellence, but then when you look at their personal life, there's no excellence, in it, right? Like the things that they do is not black excellence, right? And so for me, everything from my friendships to my family life to my business life is all about authenticity, and that's how it translates. And for me, I just I think for a lot, people have taken God out of business, out of life, and I'm somebody who's I'm not ashamed to talk about God. I don't talk about religion because unfortunately, in this country, we have, especially as black people, there's a lot of division. So if you're Christian and I'm Muslim or Jew, whatever, like people start to automatically find ways to divide us. But the truth of the matter is, if we all believe in God, right? There's more people who don't believe in God or who are not living godly. That all of the believers should just stick together, regardless of what your faith is. And so that's where the saying, abundance is your birthright came from. I had made a lot of money. Like I've generated, like I'm an 8-figure entrepreneur, right? So I've generated over $10 million as an entrepreneur. There was this thing that I thought once I made a certain amount of money that miraculously my life would just be different. And I was disappointed, right?
Yeah.
And I realized that even with money, there's still the ups and downs. Like life still be life and it's not really about the money. It's really about the journey, right? And so that's another thing that I would say is like there is no destination. So if you have that in your mind, like I'm trying to get to this destination, remove that out of your mind immediately, because what you'll notice is as human beings, we always just have a desire for more. I just lost 30 pounds in May. I say, I need to lose 40. Let me go get a sweatsuit. Let me just pack, right? And I'm pretty sure, when I get back to my desired weight, I'm gonna be like, oh no, I need to chisel up. Right? There's always gonna be something. Mm-hmm. And so I realized that like making a lot of money and reaching all these things that I had on my bucket list, that is really about the journey, and are you enjoying every single day of that journey, and that has been the catalyst to why I still do what I do, why I'm still at the top of my game. Like I literally have been in the financial education space for 20 years, right? I started in 2004 teaching financial literacy in inner city schools. Fast forward 2024, I'm still here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
He's here, man.
So I think that's pretty important to kind of like dig into a little bit deeper, right?
Yeah.
So in our community, we are very bright. We have a lot of ideas.
Yeah.
But for you as a black man, what made you transition from like, okay, working corporate America, let me step out the comfort zone of making decent money. I don't know the range, but pretty sure doing that.
Yeah, it was a safe job. Yeah.
Yeah, I was a 6-figure earner.
Yeah. So what was that moment that made you think like, hey, let me step out? And then after you stepped out, what were the moments like that switched in your brain like, I can do this?
Yeah. So I think first is just access the information. I think that for a long time, this is what you're taught in your community, right? Go to school, get a great job, retire. The more and more I started climbing the corporate ladder, the more I started to realize the value that I brought to the corporation. And that at one point, and this is almost like what I was saying about life being a journey. At one point, and everybody's gonna learn this in corporate America, is that they're never satisfied. And so, right, so they're gonna give you a goal, and if you make the goal look too easy, they're gonna give you a bigger goal. Right, exactly, right? And so they're gonna give you a bigger goal, and they're gonna keep doing that, and they're gonna squeeze the life out of you. They're gonna squeeze every ounce of value, even though you're underpaid. Everybody in corporate America is underpaid, right? Because if they're gonna pay you $100,000, you're worth $1 million to them.
Yeah.
Whether you know it or not.
Because you're generating that much.
You're generating that much money. And so for me, the light bulb was that, right? The light bulb was, wait, I look at my P&L because I was a CEO, I was a branch manager. I'm looking at my P&L and I'm like, man, I'm bringing y'all $1 million a quarter.
A quarter?
Yeah.
And I'm saying, wait a minute, if I'm doing that a quarter and you're only paying me 6 figures, and then every time I'm talking about raises and things, and even your bonus structure wasn't compensating me correctly. And I get it, right? There's this level of overhead that corporations have and things of that nature. I get it. But, I just wondered, right, for a long time, what if I bet on myself, right? What if I was able to just work as hard that I'm working for them, right? Because it wasn't that I had work-life balance, right? I had a young daughter at the time. I was working 60, 70 hours first to come in, last to leave.
Yeah.
Married, so tired from work that when I get home, I'm not playing with my daughter. So I said, what if I gave that time to me? Yep. Right? Like what would happen? And I realized, and here's the other thing that I think a lot of people need to realize, and this is an advice I would tell any young person to do, is find out what your number is for real. Right? Like, what's your number? Like, how much money do you really need to live your ideal lifestyle? Because if you know your number, you stop chasing trophies, right? Because I was in corporate chasing trophies. I was chasing title. I was chasing more money. I was chasing all of this stuff where I was like, yo, you know what? With my current lifestyle, if I made $80,000, I'll actually be fine.
You be straight, yeah.
Right? I'll actually be fine at $80,000. I could do, you know, I could go on all the vacations I want to go in. And so that was the light switch that, you know, that happened. And for me, it was just betting on myself. And then, you know, my first time I bet on myself, I fell flat on my face.
So what happened in that?
Man, so
Let's talk about failure.
No,
man.
1000%. So what happened was I'm a six-figure earner, so I have a six-figure lifestyle.
Yeah.
And then the moment, you know, I thought, so first I thought fame equals money. And so I decided that I was going to start, you know, I wrote my first book, you know, called Mind Right, Money Right, 10 Laws of Financial Freedom back in 2009. Was getting some traction, you know, I'm from New York, so Hot 97, Black Enterprise, they all showing me love. So I said, oh, I made it. I said, man, I'm about to be rich. And so I wound up retiring, like, and literally I threw myself a retirement party. So I'm using that word, like, I thought that was it. So I retired from banking, you know, threw a party at the 40/40 Club. Got a contract though. I got a contract for 60 grand, you know, teaching foster kids, you know, about finances once they age out. So it was a great, you know, I was doing hard work and I was getting paid for it. So it was great. But the problem was I was still living a six-figure lifestyle. And so 60 grand wasn't enough. And so I almost went into foreclosure. You know, my car got repoed, you know, like, you know, one of the worst times in my life, meaning, you know, I got a 2-year-old daughter. I'm parked in my driveway with a forced for sale sign on my lawn because I was a homeowner at an early age. My wife and I bought our first home at 25, and so we own our home. But I'm looking at the for sale sign, crying in my car, grown man crying because it was a decision that I made, and that's when I learned that it's important to change your relationship with money. Instead of working hard for money, money needs to work hard for you. And so what I realized was, you know, I was working hard, making money, and I was using that to fund my lifestyle instead of saying, you know what, I'm gonna work hard, make money, and I'm gonna use that money to buy income producing assets and let the income producing assets fund my lifestyle. Right? But here's the funny thing about that, right? And this is why I share that story, because 50 Cent, so I talk in hip hop bars all the time, right? So 50 Cent once said, joy wouldn't feel so good if it wasn't for pain, right? And so a lot of times people run from contrast, like you run from it. Like, man, I want everything to be all good, but you don't realize that when the things happen that are undesirable, they actually give you a sense of what you want and what you don't want. And so for me, I needed to go through foreclosure. I needed to have my car towed. I needed to have this sense of embarrassment that I can't pay the bills and things of that nature, because it taught me an important lesson about money. And it's the same lesson that I use to this day. That's why I'm permanently unemployable, right? Because I'm at a space where, you know, my residual income, my investments, they manage all of my expenses that I need, and then now I can do whatever I want with my time, right? And now I can say no to things. I can say yes to whatever I want. And in turn, that actually attracts more opportunities, more money to me. And so
abundance.
Abundance, exactly.
It just
keeps coming. Yeah.
There was something interesting that you said, and I don't think a lot of people are going to pick up on this. You work for a bank.
Yep.
But your relationship with money wasn't fully there. So this is your profession.
Yeah.
But you didn't even realize what your spending habits were.
1,000.
And then to be able to put your ego to the side, make the 60K, but you're seeing all these things go wrong. Like, how do you bounce back from that? How do you look your wife in the face and say, hey, I gotta get right. I messed up. I gotta get right. That's the game. So how do you go through that? I don't think I've never experienced that. I'm not saying you ever experienced that.
Entrepreneurship and relationships are tough.
1,000.
I'm gonna let him answer.
Oh no, 1,000%. So I have this saying that says, never give permanent energy to temporary things. And I think that, luckily, I have a wife who understands who I am, understands my drive, understands my ambition. Like, she met me ambitious. Like, she met me, I had, like, at the time I'm going through foreclosure, I was already a VP at 24. I was already, one of the top bankers in New York. So one setback doesn't define who I am. And so my wife understood that. And so she understood that, nah, this ain't forever. That's why it's important, fellas, right, to pick the right partner.
The right partner,
right? Because if you don't have the right partner, if you have a partner that's only there because of what your current status is, then when life is lifing, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're gonna be going through that journey by yourself. Every journey, every good journey, every bad journey, my wife has always been there, and so I think that it wasn't difficult to be like, hey, babe, I gotta go back to work. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm gonna tough this out for as long as possible, but nah, it's looking like if we want to save this house, I gotta go back. You know what I'm saying? So that conversation wasn't difficult, because I made the right choice from the beginning. But then at the end of the day, Wayne Dyer says, ego is edging God out, right? And so a lot of times when I have no problems disappointing my ego, because I know that ego is not of God, right? Because again, God is the best of planners, right? God is gonna guide me. So it's like, and I use this example a lot. It's like driving with Waze. I love Waze, right? Because Waze is a navigation app, but it's based on social media, right? Meaning that it takes the data from everybody who's using it. And so when Waze asks you, man, you're slowed up, is there traffic? And you say yes, it's telling somebody else there's traffic right somewhere, right?
Perfect model.
And so because of how Waze can see all, right? It sees all the traffic. It can guide you. It can say, don't go this way, go this way instead, right? And so a lot of times we have our plans, but God sees all and knows it all, right? And so it's going to guide you. And so so if God is saying, don't go this way, right? Sometimes rejection is protection. You might say, no, I want to go to I-85. I want to go to I-20. But it's a parking lot. And if you don't listen, you're going to pay the consequences of not listening. Right? And so you might think the detour is the setback, but the detour is actually the setup for the comeback that's gonna bring you stronger than ever. Because the truth of the matter, had I not quit my job, had I not went through foreclosure, had I not done all this stuff, number one, I wouldn't be that example for people to be able to talk to them about it. I would have not become a CEO of a credit union because it's a series of things that happened that allowed that opportunity to even present itself. Had I stayed in that corporate structure, the opportunity would have never even presented itself. You know what I'm saying? So all things, right? Not some. And all things are working for your greater good. And so for me, especially now, because I have the history. Sometimes, if you're young, you might be like, that sounds so good, but, whatever. But for me, that methodology is undefeated. Like every time something goes quote unquote wrong, it's always been a setup for something greater. And so now, when I go through certain adversities, I'm excited because I'm like,
what's on the other side of this?
What you got to do?
Just, I was sitting on a lot of things, right? Just listening. I definitely wanted to touch on mentoring, man, because I'm thinking, hearing all of what you just said, because you were speaking to me, right? Who did you kind of lean on, and who do you look to for a mentor? I mean, mentoring is one of mentoring is one of our pillars, right? We have mentoring, education, economic empowerment, and health and wellness. You definitely hit really all four of those, but mentoring specifically, man, just the words and wisdom that just came out of your mouth just now, right? A few years back, maybe several years back, you were in our seats. Who was in your position? Like, who did you look up to that was just spitting those gems at you?
So for me, I didn't start getting mentors until older, right? Until I had a certain level of success. But I always kind of had people that I looked up to that I didn't know. You know, and oddly enough, a lot of them I've attracted them as my real mentors. So, you know, first shout out is John Hope Bryant. You know, he's actually one of the reasons why I even do financial literacy, because in 2004, where I said, you know, I got my start, was with his organization, Operation Hope. They had a program called Banking on Our Future. And, you know, through that organization, I would go into, you know, inner city schools and teach financial literacy. And so once I found out, you know, like John Hope, I found out his story. He started to be my mentor from afar. I used to buy his books. I would, you know, anytime I had an opportunity to hear him speak, you know, I would be there. Fast forward, he's a big brother to me. He's a mentor, like cell phone. I can text him anytime. He's helped me on several occasions with things that I needed. And so, you know, he's definitely somebody that, you know, I look to as an example. And then I followed, you know, in his footsteps, if you will. You know, another one, same thing, you know, Alfred Edmond. You know, Alfred Edmond is a senior executive at Black Enterprise. He was actually one of the first people I ever saw get paid for speaking. Right, so I remember at first I used to think that was just something you gave back. Right. This is what you do, you just talk.
Go back to your high school.
Right, that's it, you know. But I remember like, you know, going to an event and him speaking at it, and he was just talking about how he made, you know, he usually get paid $10,000 a speech. I'm like, $10,000 a speech? I said, wow. And so that was the beginning of that. And so he was somebody that early on, you know, as I started my career as a financial educator, you know, I would look to, same thing, you know, I'm you know, he's a big brother to me, somebody that, you know, I spoke to him last week, right? Somebody that, you know, still we check out on each other. And that's the other thing about mentorship that I think people don't realize, is that people look at mentorship as one way, where it's almost like, all right, you know, I'm the little bro, you're the big bro, so I'm gonna look for you for advice. But the truth is, mentorship is both ways, right? Because even in those relationships that I've mentioned, like a John Hope Bryant or Alfred Edmond, there are things that they need from me because I'm the young guy, because I'm the guy, you know, who fresh perspective, you know what I'm saying? And so that's the benefit of being a mentor. And that, so I believe everybody needs a mentor and a mentee, right? Because you need to be learning and also giving back. And that's how you know, complete that circle. And so I would say those two guys are the two that come to my head. But also, you know, I'm a hip hop head, right? And so, you know, people like Magic Johnson, you know, I've been listening to Jay-Z since 15, right? So Jay has been my mentor forever. No, like that's number one. Like that's
He old school.
yeah, you know what I'm saying? And so I look at, you know, the Magic Johnsons, the Jay-Z's, unfortunately Diddy, right? Like at one point. And I say that to say, and the reason why I say unfortunately is because my first book, like I'm a guy from Harlem, you know, even though he was born in Harlem, but he grew up in Mount Vernon, but there was still that level of connection, and everything that he did from a business standpoint, you know, was something that I looked at and was like, man, this is awesome stuff. But to hear all of the allegations, but then you know, to see it, I think it just changes a lot. And so it made me angry, you know, because at the end of the day, this is somebody that I've revered, you know, someone that talked black excellence, but, you know, for whatever reason, and I'm not judging, but for whatever reasons, his actions were opposite of that. But you know, those were some of my, you know, people that I look to, and even though I've never been, you know, I didn't really have interest to be in the music business, but because that was what it was in my face. And you got to think, right? So I'm a '90s baby, right? And so, you know, the Diddy's and the Jay-Z's and the Master P's, like this was the crust of that era where they were building. They're the one that brought entrepreneurship to hip hop, right? Prior to that, right? It was just advertising, but they brought it to hip hop. And so those were a lot of my mentors, you know, that I looked up to as well.
JC said it best. I'm not a businessman.
I'm a businessman.
Like, he got bars for days. I mean, he's everybody's mentor at this point.
3 days, all day.
All day.
So I think it's finally time, man. That kind of dive. I think we've been talking about this a lot throughout this podcast episode. But let's dive into books a little bit more.
Yeah.
So, in the black community, books is not a revered thing.
Yeah.
I'm not certain what the literacy rate is.
Yeah, I'm not off the top of my head.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure it's not at the highest point that it should be at. So you as a black man, what makes you think to write a book or even have the confidence to even put that out there? Hey, these are my thoughts.
Books.
Multiple books.
Yeah.
But even the first one is usually the most difficult, right? So what was your mindset? Why? Like, did somebody push you to it? Like, was it something that you realized I'm trying to reach people outside the black community?
1,000. Yeah, no, not outside the black community, but inside the black community. But just realizing that I didn't have the bandwidth to do it through speaking engagements and you know going to conferences, right? So 2009, I was on the speaking circuit. I was wanting to reach my community. And realizing that the easiest way to reach my community was to take the knowledge that I wanted to teach them and put it in a book, because that book could, educate when I'm not around, right? And so that was the reason why I wrote the book. But then at the same time, when I came out, and it's a blessing now, right?
Yeah.
There's the EYLs, the InvestFest, the Wall Street Trappers. Like there's so many people who are doing phenomenal, things in the space. But when I came out, it was Susie Woman and Dave Ramsey. That's it.
Yeah,
there was nobody doing this that looked like us.
Yeah.
And so that was the reason I said, man, I want to write a book. So actually, Mind Right, Money Right, to me, is the hip hop version of Think and Grow Rich. So if you think about Think and Grow Rich, Mind Right, Money Right, it's the equivalent. But Mind Right, Money Right is a Jay-Z Memphis Bleak song, right? And so I wanted to create, right? So I wanted to create a version for us and teach us. And then one thing I understood though too is that books are the only thing that stand the test of time, right? Because as generations get older and older and older, music tastes might change, social media might change, there are things that might change. But at the end of the day, when you think about, like I mentioned, Think and Grow Rich, that book was written 84 years ago, right? Napoleon Hill died, over 50 years ago, right? And so at the end of the day, we still know his name. We still read his literature. We still, if you go to Amazon right now, right, Think and Grow Rich is a #1 best-selling book, right? His foundation.
So foundation,
right? So he has
and there's plenty of titles like that: Atomic Habits, Rich Dad Poor Dad, the Bible. I mean, like it's law, like it's written down. So like, no, he's speaking facts.
And so that's one of the reasons why I decided to write books, because the truth of the matter is that at any moment, right, we don't know when our expiration date is. When God says you did a great job, it's time to go home. The truth of the matter is that Ash Cash will never die, right? Because I have like people will be reading my books and being inspired even when I'm not here in the physical, and that's the reason why I decided to write books, and that's why I still have a passion to continue to write them, because they what they're saying, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And so yes, there is a low literacy rate in our community, but at the same time, when our community, when we're ready to go to that next level, where do we go? We go to books first, right? Whether it's school and we have to get a textbook, whatever it is, books are what we go to first. And so, I write books for people who are ready for the message. And that's why I shifted into the Hip Hop Financial Advisor and started to use hip hop as that equalizer, if you will, because I have a book called Hustlenomics, based on, I'm teaching business based on Nipsey Hussle's teaching, or The Wake Up Call based on Jay-Z's 444 album, or Illmatic Investor, teaching you how to invest based on Illmatic and Nas, right? And so my goal is to be able to reach people through what are they consuming right now anyway. All right, they're consuming hip hop. All right, let me just take who I am, because I'm a hip hop head. I've been listening to hip hop since I was 8 years old, right? And so I'm a hip hop head, but I'm also a financial advisor. Let me put those things together. That's what makes me unique. That's what makes my information palatable, and it goes universally worldwide. And so that's what what made me write books. And again, in God's will, I'll keep writing until You know, it's
Yeah.
time to go home.
So what has been the biggest shift mindset-wise from your first book to your current book?
Oh man, AI. Right. The biggest shift was that my first book was really, you know, a lot of people. I mean, I might not know about the Blackberries, but my
Yeah, we
first
remember
book-
the.
all right,
Yeah, remember.
Yeah.
No, BlackBerry.
Swipe up, right?
Yeah, it was like the, you know what I'm saying? You
That
had
was the first phone that had the keypad.
keypad.
On
Right.
the.
So I remember like being in my car and I wrote my like 90% of my book on my BlackBerry through memory, through, you know, and it took me like 8 months to write a book. Now, you know, with technology, artificial intelligence, I can get a book done in 5 hours. Right, 5 whole hours. Like if I sat in a room for 5 hours and outline, like I can get a book done from beginning to end. You know, obviously I have to edit and things of that nature, but I think the biggest shift is technology. The biggest shift also is my ability to get the book out and reach more people than ever before, right? Because my first book, when I wrote it in 2009, there really wasn't social media like that, right? There was Twitter, but it wasn't a place for commerce, right? You really couldn't sell like that. And so if you wanted to sell something, there was gatekeepers. I needed radio and I needed magazines, right? And so now I had to, you know, maneuver and figure out how do I get on radio? How do I get inside this magazine? Now, you know, I have hundreds of thousands, even access to millions of people. And if I drop a product, I can make it reach them immediately. Even if it's not my platform, I can pay Meta for access to millions of people. And so it allows, you know, my message to get to who I want it to get to at a faster pace.
There's so much I want to unpack there because I wanted to go into one of your principles you mentioned on your platform is financial spirituality. There's also the podcast industry because we were just talking about back in the day it was gatekeepers with radio and print.
Just transitioning from books to podcasting.
Just to podcasting. Oh my goodness. Okay, I want to go to financial spirituality because I know you mentioned like, you know, your name will last through the ages, right? Even if you're not here. So that's financial spirituality. Break that down. What that means for you, like for.
Yeah. So, you know, I think that a lot of times, again, people try to separate God from things, and they believe that, you know, they are the ones who are doing whatever is happening in their lives. And one of the biggest things I realized was anytime I wasn't spiritually tapped in, financially, it didn't work out, right? Like I probably, you know, you can always make money, right? So making money, if you're a hustler, if you hustle, if you work hard, you'll make money. But financial spirituality to me is about like, can you enjoy that money, right? Are you enjoying what you do? Do you live a life of free? Are you free?
Exactly.
Right? Because I know right? I know millionaires right now who are prisoners to their success, right? And so I don't envy anybody's success because the more success you have, you know, if you don't get that success the right way, you could be suffering in silence, right? And so for me, financial spirituality is about making sure that I'm always tapped into the divine. I'm always making sure that any money that I receive, I'm doing it righteously, right? That I receive it like, so I never take from anybody. So if anybody pays me money, it's because I'm giving you value, and that value is worth way more than the money that you gave me. And so financial spirituality is just being able to receive abundance financially, but in a spiritual way, right? Not trying to, you know, use my ego, not edging God out, but understanding that God is the ultimate provider, right? That I never need to lean on anybody for my substance, right? So like I never need to lean on somebody to get what I deserve because God is going to provide. And so that's what financial spirituality is to me, is, you know, understanding that we are all made in the image and likeness of God. And so if God is the greatest, I'm made in that image. So I am the greatest, right? But when you think about, you know, being made in the same image and likeness of God, that image is not, you can't see God. And so when you say image, like, what are you talking about? Well, image is the root word of imagination, When you think about your imagination is the root word is image. And so if I'm made in the same, likeness of God, then that image and likeness, that means my image means I have the same imagination as God, right? And so if God is infinite possibilities, if there's something, like there's nothing that God can't do, right? Because God could think of something and make it so. We are the only creatures that could do that. The sun could only sun. The moon could only moon, right? Even if you think about the lion, like there's a routine that every other living creature on this planet has to follow except us. Right? The human being, right? The human being is the only creature that could think of something, and as you think of it, you can now make it a reality, right? T.D. Jakes always says that God doesn't make chairs. God made trees. We had to make the chairs, right? And so when you think about it, we're provided in abundance everything that we need in order to make our desires come true. And so for me, financial spirituality is all about that understanding. Is that understanding that I can be, right, do and have anything I desire. But a lot of times people remove, and that's why I say human being, right? Because a lot of people, the first thing we run to is, what do I have to do to have? You gotta be first, right? Because if you want success, you have to be success first, right? You have to become successful, and then when you become successful, you do what successful people do, and then you have what successful people have. If you want, so you become, and this is, I want y'all to understand this loud and clear. You become a multi-millionaire first before the money comes. Most people, right? Most people, and this is why the stats are the stats. If you give a lottery winner millions of dollars, that money will go back into the hands of people who are millionaires. Why? Because the lottery winner did not become a millionaire once they had the money. They still have the poverty mindset. They still have all of these things. That's why we have athletes who make all this money and lose it, because they didn't become first, right? And so you have to become a multimillionaire. And when you become a multimillionaire, study multimillionaires, figure out what do multimillionaires do, become that first, and then start to do what multimillionaires do, and that's how you have what multimillionaires have. And that's for anything, right? If you want to be a successful engineer, you have to become a successful engineer first. What does a successful engineer, like who is a successful engineer in their being? They study, they do, right? So you have to become that first, and then when you become a successful engineer, you do the things that successful engineers do, and now you can have what successful engineers have.
Okay, so if you had to list out like 3 things to be a successful millionaire, what would those be?
Number one, being silent. Right? So to be a successful millionaire, you have to be silent, and you have to take direction from your inner self, number one. Number two, you have to be disciplined. And so when you are disciplined and with discipline, there comes planning, right? Like understanding, right, what are the goals, what are my desires, and then I'm gonna discipline myself to do the things that's gonna get me those desires. And then I think lastly, I would say to always be in a space of stretching yourself, right? And so not allowing what may seem impossible or improbable to stop you from going after what you desire, right? And so, if you have those 3, I think that's the beginning part of just taking guidance from your inner self, because you know what you want, right? Anytime we go against what we don't want is because of fear. You know what I'm saying? But Driz knows, Benji knows, like y'all know ultimately what it is that you actually desire. And so if you stay silent and you listen to you, then that gives you your compass, number one. And then once you have that compass and you stay disciplined and you say, all right, this is what I desire, and so I'm gonna keep doing this until I receive what I put out there. And then at the end of the day, once you have that that discipline, is really about stretching yourself. It's saying, all right, nothing's impossible, and let me just keep stretching myself, and that's how you get better and better. But that's how you keep that status of multimillionaire as well, because multimillionaires, they become and they do the things that most people are not willing to do. Right, most people are not willing to wake up 4 in the morning. Like I can show you my alarm. My alarm wake up 4:44. You know what I mean? Every single morning, right? Every single morning, my alarm is up for 4:44, regardless of what time I went to bed. Right? I got this Whoop on here, and I can show you my sleep pattern. Right? Up at 4:44. Some days I get 4 hours, some days I get 7 hours, depending on what the obligations are. But at the end of the day, it's really all about discipline. I promise you, there's a million things I don't feel like doing, but I do them all. I do them anyway because I know that with that discipline comes great reward.
And I learned about harping on that for a second, right? The difference between discipline and motivation. Oh my goodness, because motivation is like conditional, right?
Yeah.
And I struggle with that myself. Like I try to wait to be motivated to get out of bed sometimes versus being disciplined.
Yeah.
That's I'm not a morning person. I'm trying to become one. I'm trying to join a 5 a.m. club. I'm really trying to be a different type of person, right? Versus just trying to do stuff. I really am on that journey of like, okay, what type of person can I change myself into or be to where I can be disciplined to get up anytime versus just motivated.
Yeah.
And it's tough.
Yeah, and I love that you said that though, because that's the truth, right? Like motivation is something that comes and goes, and what happens is if you're waiting for motivation to do something, then your success is not in your hands, right? Somebody else controls that. And so again, that level of discipline, and I would just say, sometimes it's just about just doing it, right? Forcing yourself to do it, and then eventually you'll get so used to doing it that the discipline becomes automatic. And that's what I've learned and I've realized is that the things that I'm disciplined to do, that I have to do, if I do it enough, it becomes something that's just automatic for me.
Mm-hmm. So then, my follow-up question, because I feel like I've gotten the discipline aspect done. I can wake up.
You more disciplined than me? Crazy.
Man, I used to work out at 4 a.m.
Yeah, you're right.
All right.
Yeah, I'm
gonna get into it. But what I feel like in my journey, the difficulty is finding the repetitive tasks to do every day to build without being distracted. Like, hey, I might start writing a book this day.
Yeah.
But then the next day I'm over here trying to design my company website.
Yeah.
And then the next day I'm trying to do this. But it seems like whenever I speak to the more tenured and experienced people who figured out the whole aspect of business, consistency, they seem like they have that regimen of they know what to do in every single moment.
Yeah.
So how do you develop that?
Yeah, so I think a couple of things. So my brother Julian Gordon talks about having a to-do list, right? Yeah. And not T-O, but T-W-O, two. So I think every single day you should have 2 things to do. That's it, right? Wow. Just 2 things. Like what are those major things? What are 2 things that has to get done, right? So by the time the sun goes down, these 2 things have to be done. And I think if you stick to that, right? Brian Tracy has a good book called Eat the Frog. And Eat the Frog is about doing what seems like the most difficult thing first, so that the smaller things get done more easily. And so I think that's the case, even for myself. While I'm writing 24 books, I also have multiple businesses I run. I have, staff that I have to manage. I have a workout schedule. I have a family. I have a lot of things going on. But even while I'm doing those things, I have a to-do list. I'm like, all right, these are the 2 things that need to be done today. I'm gonna knock those things down. And even when distractions try to come, because they will come, they're not gonna stop, right? They're not gonna stop. They will come. I have a 16-year-old and a 9-year-old. And so the random, daddy, we hungry. You know what I'm saying? Daddy, let me look at the calendar. That's not on there.
Not on there.
Can you take us to Chick-fil-A? That ain't on there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We want to walk. We want to go to Stone Mountain and walk. That ain't on there, right? And so a lot of times it's about having that to-do list, and when the distractions come, you're still focused on those things to do. And so that's how you kind of knock it down. And so I would just say that is that you should have, these big goals or these big projects that need to get done, and then these little things that, also need to get done. but you chip away at the little things when you have time, when you need to take a break, because that's the other thing too, right? So like I can't sit too long, so I'll be doing one of those things, but now I need I need to take a break. I bet. Let me check email real quick. Let me answer these stuff real quick. Let me and so those how I chip away at the smaller stuff, but I'm always getting back to the bigger things. Yeah,
that's a bar.
Okay, so can you dive a little bit further into this 24 book thing?
Yeah.
Your mindset behind it, the end goal, because you're committing to writing 24 books in a year, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
So how does that fit into this crazy schedule? And like, what made you say, hey, my life is already difficult as it is. I already got all this
Right.
stuff. I'm gonna commit
Let's just add something
24 books
Yeah.
on top of losing 30 pounds in a month, on top of, man, I don't even know what else.
I think so one, it's obedience. Again, when you are tapped into your source, you understand. You never understand while you're doing it. You always understand in hindsight. So I don't know why God told me to write 24 books, right? But I do know that it's part of a plan, right? And so for me, I was reading a book, 10X is easier than 2X.
I think I started reading that because I saw it.
It's a great book. It's a great book, right? So I'm reading 10X is easier than 2X. I forget the author. I don't know if it's nice. Is it Dan Kennedy? I forget the older author, right? But he started to talk about how he's 79 years old and he committed to writing 34 books or something like that. Yeah. So I said, man, this 79-year-old is writing all of these books. Me, every time people ask me, hey, how many books you got? I say, I released 14 books, but my goal is to do 40. That's what I would say to them. And in my head, I'm saying, well, I already know the 40 books I want to write. Right? I already know the 40 books I want to write. So why am I waiting? Right? And so I got into the mindset of 10X is easier than 2X. And so I said, if I got 14 books, imagine by the end of the year, in God's will, that I got my 40 books.
40 books.
Okay, here's the title.
Yeah.
Dan Sullivan. Dr. Benjamin Hardy. 10X is easier than 2X.
Yes.
Make sure y'all check that out. The book is powerful.
Yeah, so I said Dan Kennedy, but Dan Sullivan. And so I'm listening to Dan Sullivan talking about his age and how at his older age, he's still gonna write 34 books. I said, okay, I could do that. You know what I'm saying? And so that was the beginning of it. And then here's the funny thing though, as I was writing the books, doors started opening up more and more and more, right? Meaning that, because I know from a promotion standpoint, is that if I write a book, I need to promote this thing, right? So that's why I would write a book a year, because I'll write one book and then I'll promote it. I'll write another book and I'll promote it. And so in my mind, I say, bro, how are you gonna promote 24 books at one time? And so as I'm going through the process, a school reaches out to me and says, man, I got a graduating class. I want to buy 250 of your books.
And that's a play right there.
I said, I don't even have to promote it because if I have the books available, I could just present them to schools and organizations to buy them in bulk. And then I'm gonna.
That's one of the best ways to sell books.
Right.
Yeah.
And so now, but imagine this though, if I wasn't obedient and I didn't decide to write, I probably wouldn't have this catalog, right? So by the end of the year, I'm gonna have a catalog of 40 books. Regardless of what you want to learn about, investing, cryptocurrency, credit, business structure, whatever it is in the finance space, I will have a book connected to hip hop politics, right? Everything. Everything.
That's cold.
Right? And can we show the books real quick? Because I want to show, even the thought process of why I even, I changed the, right? So like I even changed. So you got to think about it. They're all themed, right? Yeah. So now, this wasn't the original cover, right, of my 444 book, but now I got a, picture Jay with the eyes covered, right? I got a right? I got a picture of Nas with the eyes covered. Nipsey Hussle. So now it's like there's like a style, right? And this one I didn't cover the eyes because he had glasses on. Yeah.
In front of the camera, real quick.
Yeah.
You guys gotta get these books. Back
Yeah,
it
back it
up
up.
right here.
Mm-hmm.
That's good right here.
Lit. Yeah, I like the Illuminati Investor. I'm gonna definitely check that one out.
Yeah.
And then Hustlenomics, you got two.
Hustlenomics, you got the wake up call.
Yeah.
You got the Illmatic Investor.
This is like it's kind of like an anthological approach. Like you have a whole anthology of
It's a
just
brand.
yeah, I mean,
Absolutely, right? And so now think about this, right? And
Yeah.
so just as from a psychology perspective,
Yeah.
if I have 40 books that all look the same, right? And you got information from one, why wouldn't you want to say, you know what? I want to get the collection. I want to make sure I get all of them, right? And so that has been the thought process.
Amazing.
Again, that did not come to me when the intuitive hunch said write 24 books. It came after, right? And so I believe that at the end of the year, now organizations could buy them in bulk,
Yep.
right? You
Yep.
got schools that could buy them
They
in
can
bulk.
do series
There's so
on that.
many people
Yeah.
that could buy these in bulk. And that's how, I have a goal of selling 2 million books. I've sold 250,000 as an independent author. And so my goal is 2 million. And I said, all right, I'm gonna do the 2 million by getting my 40 titles and selling them in bulk.
And I think there's something important here that, like, a lot of times in the black community, when we talk about business, we never talk about this. You are building a brand. You're doing a good job of associating your brand with other people with powerful brands.
Yes.
And then you're going about it the right way. And there's an element where when I met you, I made sure to associate myself with my brand.
Yes.
That kind of caught your attention. So
Yeah.
can you kind of speak about that a little bit further?
personal
Yeah.
How
branding.
does that work out in a business exchange?
Yeah.
When it comes to opportunities and things of that nature.
1,000%. So I think it's more about exchange of value, right? A lot of times people have this thing that, what can you do for me, right? But never think about what you can do for other people. And so for me, I know that the more powerful my brand is, the more equity I have, the more I can be of value to whoever. And so I never get into a situation and look at it as like, man, this situation will change my life. In fact, I know that we are going to be equally changing each other's lives. Like it's going to be something that helps on both ends of the spectrum. And so for me, I've been building my brand again since 2009. The Ash Cash brand. And so for me, it's just really making sure that whether you know me as a person or you know of or heard of my brand, that there's an association there, that that, oh, this is the guy who's the financial motivator, or this is the guy who could help me do X, Y, Z, fill in the blank. And so when building a brand, and I say that, anybody, when you're building a brand, just make sure that brand is built off of the value that you provide, not the sensationalism, right? If you build a brand because, you smack the hamburger out of somebody's hand, at some point, nobody's going to know you, right? If you build the brand off of, I created this dance that everybody is doing, at some point, people are going to stop doing the dance. And so what is the value that you offer? And then how can you strategically align yourself with people who are on the same mission, right? Because it's always collaboration over competition. Because at the end of the day, and that's one thing that I learned, that, my mission isn't about me, right? My mission is about the community. I want our community to create financial freedom, to build generational wealth. So I don't care if it's me doing it. I don't care if it's Trapper doing it, if it's EYL doing it. I don't care who. I don't care if it's Julian Gore. I don't care who it is, right? I don't care who's doing it. Are you part of that mission? And how can I help with that mission along the way? Can I add anything to, that mission?
Okay, and I know we're 1 hour in, but I think this is a very important topic. We got a lot to touch on.
I'm going to touch on partnerships, man, because
So
community,
crazy you said that. So
that's what I was going to.
So you did Inside the Vault. Now I believe that was your idea, but it was hosted on the Earn Your Leisure
Network.
Yep.
Correct? So how does that come about? How do you position yourself to align your brand and present that value to Earn Your Leisure? And how does that play out when it comes to developing your idea, understanding what you over here is going to impact things over here, and how that impacts you overall, especially sometimes when you associate with certain brands, certain people might not see that as the best move or might see that as a potential threat towards them.
Yeah, I think, so a couple of things I'll say. I think that sometimes people wait until something is successful to want to like jump on the bandwagon, if you will. And by that time, I'm not saying it's too late, but by that time, you have to bring more to the table in order to get someone's attention, right? Once they have, like for me at this stage of my life, like I'm Ash Cash already, right? Like I've done a lot of stuff. So it's gonna take a lot for somebody to like try to get my attention for me to want to do business with them, right? Because I know that because I'm Ash Cash, that me associating with certain brands is going to do more for them than it's gonna do for me. And so at this stage of my life, I'm always looking for, all right, what's that value? Do I see that value that that person has that it can also benefit me? I met Rashad before there was an Earn Your Leisure, right? And so, from New York, yeah. And so a mutual friend, so we both hoopers. And so one of our hooper friends, mutual friend, had introduced us to each other. Rashad was a financial advisor at the time. I had a radio show in New York. And so he reached out because he was, when you're licensed as a financial advisor, there's certain things you can and can't say. And so we would have conversations around, how I was able to do radio and not being, crossing the lines as a financial advisor. And so that's how we met. And then fast forward to when they started, because I knew the idea of Earn Your Leisure before it started. And so once they started Earn Your Leisure, I was one of the early episodes, so people don't know, but I'm episode number 26, right? And so if you go way back, right, we go back to Troy, like salute to Troy, salute to Rashad, way back to when they were doing it on iPhones, right? So they had the podcast episodes. It was 3 iPhones. We were in Troy's kitchen, it was in the kitchen with me in the middle and then Troy and Rashad on the other side. And so that it started out that way. And then as I started to see them build, I had moved to Atlanta. Me and 2 partners, we, came up with the idea for Inside the Vault. And we was going to run it ourselves. But they had already launched Market Mondays. And I think it was like a casual conversation because right now, at that point, it was only it was the Earn Your Leisure show and Market Mondays. And it was a casual conversation. We were just talking and they were saying, hey, we're about to start a podcast network. And they presented this idea of like all of us financial revolutionaries. That's what we called ourselves. All of us financial revolutionaries coming together and just building something big that's bigger than just a brand. And so as I was hearing the idea, I came to them and was like, yo, let me instead of me just trying to figure out this podcast thing, because I figure out the radio thing, I know the book stuff, I know the magazine and television stuff because I've done that already. But this podcast thing is kind of new to me. I don't know how to be successful there. Y'all do, so let's just do this thing together. And then that's how, I think Inside the Vault was probably the first show outside of their show that was on the network. And then, there was, I still think there's probably like 7 or 8 shows on the network now. Yeah, it's plenty. Yeah, it's plenty of shows. Yeah, that's on the network now. But that's how that started, right? It was an organic, relationship that we kind of looked at and saw as a win-win. And that's how that relationship began. I'm grateful to the not just Troy and Rashad, because it's a whole team. So Mike, MG, AB, Danielle. So it's a whole team. But just salute to everybody there because it's always been love. The opportunity. They put me on my biggest stage of my career, right? I've been speaking for over 20 years, and last year I was able to talk in front of 20,000 people. Prior to that, the year before, they put me on my biggest stage, was 12,000 people. Prior to that, it was 4,000, but I had spoke more than 4,000. So the first year wasn't my biggest stage, but prior to that, I had probably spoke around 5,000, 6,000 people. But then since then, I've been, they've been helping me, speak to a large audience. And really, my global reach is because of being on a network and, being able to, have access to, people worldwide. So it's a blessing. But again, it's a strategic partnership, right? It wasn't like, I came in there and said, oh man, you guys are hot. And so I want to ride what y'all doing. You know what I'm saying? Like, I came in with equity. You know what I'm saying? I came in there like, word, Cash is, it's on the EYL network. Like, there was a mutual benefit for both of us. It wasn't just one-sided. And I think that was the beauty of why it did well, right? Because if you imagine if, as busy as those guys are, right? Imagine if I came in there like, all right, let me ride your coattail. No, they opened the door and provided me a platform, but I still had to put my own team together, shoot my own content, right? And so studio, like all of that was still me. And I had to, like nobody watches the show and says, man, I like this show because I didn't get millions of views because it's on the EYL network. It's because they saw the quality of it. They saw the brands I was bringing in. And again, it was a mutual beneficial thing. And so I tell anybody, when you're looking at strategic partnerships, just make sure it makes sense. Right? A decade ago, I had a partnership with allhiphop.com, right? I was one of the first financial, segments on their website, right? When there was no podcast and people were going on websites and they were getting 7 million unique views every single month, I was on there giving financial advice to a hip hop community where nobody else was doing it. It was strategic. Why? Y'all got the people. I got a message that nobody else is talking about. Let me insert that in. Right? And so if you're thinking about any strategic partnership, like there's tons of strategic partnerships that I'll probably do even after this, right? After EYL, right? And how are those gonna go? I'm gonna look and I'm gonna see the value that I provide. I'm gonna see what value they have and see how the merging of those two magnifies both. It's a win-win. I do not like situations where only one person wins. I like it has to be win-win in order for it to make sense.
Okay. And then,
I was gonna dive in. Yeah, I wanted to dive into that partnership piece, bro, because we talk about this, bro, and it's definitely a stigma, especially in our community. We got to talk about it because we just talked about this in Women's History Month.
Hold on, let me set you up for this.
Go ahead and set me up, man, because I'm gonna go. Set me up.
So when I tuned into Earn Your Leisure, it was around 2020.
Yeah.
It was around the
pandemic era.
stock split. I'm a young professional. I'm just now getting the 401k. Founding out Fidelity, Schwab, and then like Earn Your Leisure pops up. Then I see Inside the Vault, then I see Trap, then I see M500, and out of all that, I saw the partnership, but I saw something that was bigger than just the partnership, right? I saw black men working together to achieve a bigger goal, especially at a time when, we know this, in engineering school, there was about 20 of us in a room together?
Yeah.
So
not many of us.
Setting that scene, I'll pass it off to you because I think that was an important element when it comes to this partnership that we had to highlight.
Yes. So recognizing that there's not many of y'all in that space, and you're looking around and seeing like, okay, this is us, right? Strategic partnerships is so important, and I'm trying to get that conversation where we destigmatize people seeing partnerships as a threat, especially in our community, right? It's like, oh well, what you going, make sure you're not taking away from what I got going on. Let me, it's kind of like looking over their shoulder versus you just said it, like, how can we all win? Yeah. Right? Was that a misconception? Not even among you, but were there other, because obviously there's more people involved in the EYL community. Yeah. We already mentioned Trap, Kiana, there's so many people involved. Like how did y'all talk about that? If you did talk about it, like, have destigmatizing the whole, let me make sure y'all not taking away what I gotta do versus how can we all win?
Yeah, I think it goes back to the feeling. Yeah. I think if something feels right, you go with it. If it doesn't feel right, you don't go with it, right? And I think that again, like attracts like. And so when you are vibrating on an energy, you'll attract other people who are vibrating on that energy. In the same breath though, strategic partnerships are not forever, right? And I think that one of the biggest things that I see in our community is that we look for like beef. We look like for reasons why. Like, yo, it's like, yo, I don't see this person with that person that much no more. Or remember they was locked in, but it don't look like they locked in no more. And I think that the stigma sort of is like a false narrative, right? Meaning that I think whether it's the black community, the white community, Asian community, Hispanic community, there are always, we're never on the same page. Right? We're never on the same page. Or, not that we're never on the same page. We're never always on the same page. Let's just say that, right? So we're never always on the same page. So there are going to be conflicts. There are going to be disagreements. There are going to be things that happen in the space that, you know, for the most part, people try to keep behind closed doors that might spill out into the public, since we are all public figures. But I think ultimately, every single one of us, the reason why we all thrive, the reason why we do this is because we do it for the culture, we do it for the community, and we understand our responsibility in that. And I think that's why, you know, you were able to see all of us come together.
It's a
and
bigger
really
mission.
just,
Everyone's
bigger
serving
mission,
a bigger,
you know what I'm saying? Bigger mission. You know, even if there's something that someone does that, you know, somebody may not like, the bigger mission is all about the culture. It's how do we continue to move the culture forward? And if there, you know, but at the same time, if somebody is taking away from the culture, we speak up, right? And so that's the other thing though too, is that we've also been very intentional, because I know that even in this space, there's been a lot of you know, people that came into the space that didn't have good intentions, that you know, were potentially scammers or doing things that was hurting our community. And so we had a responsibility to also, to have that accountability, to make sure that we're not aiding in giving our you know, community information that can hurt them. And so I just think that ultimately we were all vibrating on the same wave. I think that we all have grown significantly though, right? Because again, this is something that has never really happened, right? I've been in this space 20 years, and the level of celebrity we have, right? Like
in a good light,
in a good way, right?
You're not just talking about beef and drama. Like this
When
is.
you see celebrities saying, "Hey, I want to come to invest in that."
1,000. 1,000.
I mean, I'm fanboying real quick.
Yeah.
When y'all got Shaq on there, Rick Ross, DJ, I was like, yo, what? Yeah, like for real. I mean, this is us.
Yeah.
Like the entrepreneurship side of
everything.
1,000.
Rick Ross is down the street, like he in Fayetteville. And then his car show, he's talking about his story. DJ Khaled talking about his story. Like these are people. You know, we're humanizing our folks.
1,000. And you know,
level.
like even like, you know, I've been in airports where somebody's like, oh, yo, you Ash Cash, or I've seen this or whatever. And when people are, you know, giving me reverence, if you will, it's not because of, you know, it's something that I helped them with. Like, yo, I watched this episode and I got a $50,000 government contract. You know what I'm saying? So it's just a dope thing to just be in a space where, you know, we're not athletes, we're not you know, entertainers. You know what I'm saying? We're entrepreneurs, and we're teaching. And we're creating other us's, you know what I'm saying? Because there's so many people now who have podcasts, who have started businesses, and so it's just a beautiful thing. And so when I look at the, you know, strategic partnerships and what we've been able to build, it's, you know, there's no time to stop now, right? EYL needs to become bigger.
Bigger.
You know, Trapper needs to become
the biggest
bigger,
ever, bro.
Right? You know, Trapper needs to become bigger. Him 500, Ash Cash, like, well,
all of them.
You know, we need to become bigger. Why? Because it's not about us, right? The more we're able to do, the more visibility that we have, the more we could create others who can now, at the end of the day, we want to normalize entrepreneurship in our community, right? We want to normalize people looking up to the entrepreneur who has built the business, or, you know, the 20-something-year-old who's a multi-millionaire and higher, right? So like we want to be able to normalize that, and that becomes the culture, not no disrespect, but not the sexy reds and not the drill music. You know what I'm saying? And so that's the goal ultimately, and we still got a lot of work.
A lot of work.
Okay.
Right.
So I guess we gotta well, I know we want to continue this, but
I wish. First of all, can we just clap it up for all of that, bro, man? We gotta. Wow.
Shout out to Ash.
I definitely have final statements, but I'm gonna let you.
Oh well, shoot. I just wanted to leave the crowd with this.
Yeah.
This is something that we typically like to ask older black men. We believe that we're filling a space, like you said, that we're the young up and coming. You're the OG in the room now, even though it might be crazy to you. But as the OG, as you look at the landscape, as black men successful, those who are on the journey to become successful, those who need a little bit more work, what are some of the things that you feel like we need to do better as a community of black men, especially the younger ones coming up? And egos can kind of sometimes fly. We could easily be egotistical and then like we're gonna be better, bigger and better than Ash Cash, and let's not talk to them. But we wanted to engage with you to learn, to see, and also there's an aspect where it celebrates the whole pace that we're going to be at, right? So can you speak on that a little bit more? What you see from the younger crowd?
Yeah.
What you think we need to do better?
Yeah, I think that the younger, if I were to see, I just think that the younger crowd needs to just take guidance more. Because I mentor all the time. I'm around young people all the time, and I think that and I've been young before too, so I understand. Right. But there's this level of
take on the world, man.
Yeah, there's this level of I know it all, and I'm gonna do things my way. Your way worked for you back in your day or whatever. And it doesn't work anymore. And I think that what young people need to do is just find somebody who is older, who's still doing it, and listen to them, and the reason why I say that is because, yes, as a young person, you have your hand and pulse on what young people like, but the core fundamentals of business do not change.
They don't change. Yeah.
They're the same. If you go 1,000 years ago,
it's biblical.
It's the same. Right? It's the same.
The richest man in Babylon.
Richest man in Babylon.
Everything, man.
If you think about, from a biblical perspective, you think about King Solomon, right? It's
bars.
It's it's the same principles, right?
Same ones.
Principles do not change, and so listen and learn principle, because I think for me, that's why I'm 20 years in. There's a lot of people that can't say that.
No.
There's a lot of guys who started when I started, who aren't here anymore, or who are doing something totally different.
The age of most of these kids nowadays.
Right. You get what I'm saying? And I think that for me, because I've always stood on principle.
Yeah.
The saying that people stand on business.
Stand on business.
Nah, stand on principle.
Yeah.
Right? Because business changes.
It does.
Right? If you stand on business, well, this business that worked before is not going to work.
Not going to work. Yeah.
But if you have the principle, I give you a prime example, is that I borrow traffic. Right? And so the principle says that if I can exchange value with somebody who has my audience, exchange that value, and borrow their traffic. And so, 15 years ago, when I wrote for magazines, when I was on the blogs, right, I was exchanging value. I stood on principle and said, hey, I could be of value. Can you put me in front of your audience? Here you go. Fast forward, my partnership with allhiphop.com is no different than my partnership with EYL.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's the same thing, is that, hey, I have something, I can add this value, right? The principle didn't change. And so I think that if young people pay more attention to principle and not business, because yes, you might see somebody who made a lot of money, right? But that doesn't mean that they're happy. That doesn't mean that they're not a prisoner to that money. It doesn't mean that they did it the right way, right? And so we're only following people because they showed you. You've never seen I have a 6-figure car. You've never seen it online, never, right? I live in an 8-bedroom, 6-bath house.
Yeah.
You've never seen it
I
online.
remember when I saw your whip, I'm not gonna put it out.
Yeah.
I was like, yo, hold up.
Yeah.
I'm sitting in the Jeep and I just see the sun get blocked out. Oh, snap. Big boy.
Right? And so for me, it's like, yeah, I could present myself with my things, but I'm not my things.
You're not your things.
If you took those things away from me and I walked in a room, I need you to know that I am Ash Cash.
For sure.
Right?
Being, that's the being.
I am Ash Cash. Like
the
you,
being,
like you're not gonna say that I am Ash Cash. Oh, that's the guy with the Lamborghini, or that's the guy with the Rolls Royce, or that's the nope. I am Ash Cash because I lead with principle. Right? And so whether I have $10 million in the bank or negative in the bank, I am still Ash Cash. And I want people to, like young people specifically, I think if we led with that, because we give our reverence, meaning young people, because I'm still young, if you're not calling me OG, I'm young, right? But we give our reverence, we give our everything to to perception, right? And not principle. So I would just say, try to lean on more principle. Don't get fascinated by the things because, we brought up Diddy before, but even if you understand, like a lot of stuff he was able to get away with was because they were standing on business, right? He had the power from a business perspective, but nobody stood on principle. Because if you stood on principle, you would say, nah, that ain't right, I'm good. Nah, that don't feel right, I'm good. I don't care what you could do for my career. This don't feel right. You know what I'm saying? And so I think if we start to, young people, we start to stand on principle of what feels right and what is principle based, I think you'll be learning the right things, and you'll be learning them in the best way that gets you to your goals.
Man, powerful. That's it right there. Oh,
I'm good.
Hey, you put it right there.
No, he did it. He did it.
Well, shout out to Ash for pulling
For sure.
up.
Where can they find you though? Let's make sure we get these books back, and then where can they find you? Where can they get these books?
All the young professionals,
all of that, for real.
This is what you want to follow.
All the emerging folks.
1,000. So y'all can go. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We put it. Hold on. Grab two.
Yes, sir. Yes,
I got
sir.
you.
We put it in them up.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Tell the folks so they can find
Yeah,
you.
so you could, my website is iamashcash.com. You can follow me on all social media platforms at iamashcash. My books are available anywhere books are sold, so Amazon.com, Barnes & Nobles, Walmart, Target. They're all Audible as well, so if you don't like to read physical books and want to listen to them, you can go to Audible. But, just check me out at iamashcash.com, and I'm on all social media platforms at iamashcash.
And also, he's an amazing man. We didn't pay him to be
Yes.
here. Randomly saw him at the barbershop.
Yeah.
I gave him an elevator.
Yeah, we didn't even
pitch
talk about how y'all met.
So this is black excellence.
Yeah.
We at the barbershop. I walk in. I look to the left. My boy about to line me up. I look to the right. I was like, hold up. I don't know if he remembers this. I was so nervous. I just dapped him up. I was like, yo, I just appreciate what you do.
Yeah.
I'm going to find some way to bring you some value.
Yeah.
And that was the only statement I made.
Yeah.
And then I went and I was talking to my boy. And he's lining me up. And I'm like, we're talking business. Actually, his business is booming. He actually just went and got his own shop. I was talking to him about that for a few months. But then I was like talking to him about gaining opportunities. And I was like, you know what? Let me ask him to introduce me.
Right.
And let me just tell him who I am and what I do as a young professional. I don't know what I can do for him.
Yeah.
But every older person needs the young professionals around in some shape or form to have some type of basics. And hence the reason for this whole show is to provide that platform for the older people to come teach us, and even younger people to come on here and teach the different aspects of life. I really appreciate you coming out.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Shoot, you helped me win this bet for a month.
Value, man.
Yeah.
Value.
Yeah.
We got
But
you.
He came out here, didn't pay him.
Yeah.
He just asked that we bring some value, bring some impact.
Yeah.
And since the simple fact we are part of the 100 Black Men of North Metro Atlanta, especially the emerging 100, he just felt the need to come help us because we were willing to pour into our community.
1,000.
Which is a lesson that needs to be learned. If you come
Talk about
correct,
it.
1,000.
if you're doing the correct things and you are following those principles that he's speaking on, a lot of these older people will give you those opportunities.
And let me just say this though, right? Because I am somebody, I value my time, right? Because like I said, I've made millions of dollars. I've spent millions of dollars, right? And so I don't really care about money as much because money comes and goes. But this time that I gave you, I'm never gonna get that back. And so I'm really conscious about where I, invest my time. I don't like when you spend things, you end things, right? So I'm very conscious of where I invest my time. And to your point, I think that one of the things that intrigued me was, your elevator pitch and who you are, and what you do from a corporate perspective, and at such a young age, your dedication to the community, and so I see me and you, right? Like when I look at y'all, like I see me, and so who would I be for real if I denied me? If I said, nah, I'm too big to come. No, like let's do it. Let's lock it in. Let's make it happen. Because at the end of the day, I treat my brothers and sisters the way I want to be treated. And again, there were times where I would reach out to older people, and they were too big, right? They were too big to fool with little old me. You know what I'm saying, at the time. And again, and this is another principle-based thing. If you really believe that you are made in the image and likeness of God, that means like Benji is made in the image and likeness of God, right? That means Driz is made in the image and likeness of God. So I'm not like, I've been here longer. Yeah, I have more opportunity, but I'm not no different than you. I don't look at you and say, yo, this the little homie. Nah, you know what I'm saying? That's God, little G. Greatness on display. That's greatness on display. Right, and so everyone. That's why I don't have an ego, and I don't look at position. I don't look at anything that could be taken away as the thing, right? I look at you, and again, that meeting for me, like that's part of what I promised God. I said, yo, like it wasn't there for me, which again, the contrast is important, right? If maybe older people were there for me, I don't know. Maybe I have a chip on my shoulder, right? Maybe I wouldn't be so giving. Maybe I'll be like, I'll forget that they was there for me and I wouldn't give back. But the fact that it wasn't there, I wanted it so bad. I grew up without a dad though, so that's the backdrop though of it too. Yeah. Right? Is that I'm a product of a single parent home, right? The youngest of three, grew up in the project, so I didn't come from money. I didn't come from a stable household, so I didn't have no dad. So you got to understand, when I'm reaching out to men and I'm asking for mentorship and y'all not reciprocating, that makes me say, yo, F all of y'all. You get what I'm saying? And so I said, nah, like I'm not gonna be what I despise. I'm gonna give back. And so again, it's an honor. I appreciate you. You know what I'm saying, for like allowing me, right? Because again, I don't take this for granted. This is not like, this wasn't one of those things where I didn't do y'all a favor, right? This is reciprocal, right? This is an opportunity for me to honor God, right? And what I told God years ago, I like, yo, I'm gonna be one of them ones forever though. As long as I got breath in my body, I'm gonna be one of them ones who, whatever I learn, if I can help somebody else, I'm gonna give it freely. So I appreciate you guys for sure.
Most def. Hey, that's it right there. Real talk. We'll see y'all on the next one. Let's go. Oh man.